Jarvis, thank you so much for joining me. I've always looked forward to our conversations. You're so articulate. You have some really, really good ideas. And especially right now, I can't wait to get into it. So thank you for joining us once again, man.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
So let's get into it right quick. So yesterday, there was a lot of heavy news. And I just want to get your overall impressions and your overall reaction to what happened yesterday with Breonna Taylor.
First and foremost, I'm not surprised that justice wasn't served. Am I outraged by it? Absolutely. It never ceased to amaze me how the justice system finds a way to ensure that Black Americans don't get justice, and it's just disheartening. Like I said, I'm not surprised by it, but I was definitely hopeful that somehow, some way, this would be the one where that maybe just the pressure that's been on everybody since this has happened. You would think with all the media coverage, with all the social media posts, with everything that's going on, just the pressure of the people would just force them to just say, you know what, let's sacrifice this guy. But instead, what do we get? The family got $12 million, which I think is great. I think money is important, but it's not everything, because while that family is going to be taken care of, Black America is still not taken care of, right? We still don't feel that we'll get justice in these situations, because history has shown us that there won't be justice. Um, it, it I don't want to say I'm numb to it, because I'm not. I'm angry, but at the same time, like, I still feel this numbness, just that, like, man, like, it's just never going to change. Um, I it was I went through a wide range of emotions yesterday, just really just going. I actually woke up to the news. Um, I took a nap because I'm got a newborn, so you got to get sleep when you can, and I woke up to CNN and text messages from friends and family telling me what happened, and of course I look into it more, and the first thing I saw was the wanton endangerment or whatever it was, and I'm like, okay, I didn't know what it was, as I'm sure most people didn't right away know what it was, but right away I knew it was some BS. I knew it was something, some sort of loophole, some sort of something to, and because if it's anything other than this person being charged with murder, manslaughter, some sort of degree murder, like like we're reaching, like we're just pulling something out. And to know that her murder came second to gunshots in a wall, like that is just not cool. As a Black man, like, I'm already afraid to get pulled over. I'm afraid of those situations. And just to know that no justice continues to happen heightens that anxiety, heightens that fear that I have of those that are supposed to serve and protect. A couple months ago, I got pulled over. I wasn't speeding. I wasn't. Uh, I was using my turn signal. I was doing everything I was supposed to do, and I noticed a police officer was following me. Had my pregnant wife in the car with me. We had just went to Home Depot. We were trying to make it back home. We were working on a project in my son's nursery, and we just needed a couple of things. And we're just trying to get back home. And I noticed the guys following me, the cops following me. And I tell my wife, I said, he's following me. And she's like, no, give him. I said, I knew right away he was following me. And eventually he pulls me over. We pull over into like this gas station parking lot. And when I tell you I'm trembling, because think about it. In my mind, I haven't done anything wrong. If I had been speeding, hey, I get it. You're going to give me a speeding ticket. Cool, I was in the wrong. But in your mind, when like I haven't done anything wrong, like every time I turned, I used a signal. And what happened was how I confirmed that he was following me when I made this U-turn. When I made the U-turn, I'm like, yep, he's following me. And that was scary. Um, and I'm literally trembling. Like, I'm a 6'4" Black guy. Like, not a whole lot of things frightened me, but I was trembling, like, and uncontrollably. Like, I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, what do I do? Like, how do I? He's going to probably ask for my driver's. Like, how do I reach for this stuff without him thinking I'm reaching for a gun or I'm reaching for something to attack him. And in that moment, all I'm thinking, and it's not even so much my safety that and my sanity that was that I was worried about. It's like my pregnant wife is in the car, and I'm just thinking about, am I Philando Castile right now? Like, because that's the same thing that pretty much happened to him. And those moments just frighten you. The Now, to round up the story, when the officer got to my vehicle, he was trembling too. He was almost trembling too when he realized he pulled over a black man because it was almost like he was like, crap. It was like awkward for him too. So right away, he kind of came at a very like an angle, like he was still protecting himself, making sure in case I was reaching for something. But he right away told me, "You're not in trouble. I'm not giving you a ticket. I'm not doing this." But you could just tell, like it was. It took everything in him to make sure that I didn't walk away from that situation feeling like, I was targeted.
Yeah.
And he pulled me over because I had so I have a vehicle that has obviously a right tail light, a left tail light. And then I also have the one in the middle of like my back windshield. That one was out. That's why he pulled me over, which is still kind of suspect, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was okay. That made sense. At least it made sense. But what's disheartening about that is like, I don't think that's the experience that white Americans have when they get pulled over. And that's just not right. Like, how is that equality? No matter what happened in a scenario, just the fact that when I get pulled over, I'm like shaking is not right.
Yeah.
I shouldn't feel that way. When white Americans get pulled over, they get to talk back to the police officers if they want to. They get to, have that encounter and they go about their day. When I get pulled over, I don't know if I'm going to get accused of stealing my own car. I don't know if, like, I don't know. And those things are just not cool. And so when you see something like the Breonna Taylor situation, where she was killed inside of her own apartment and the guy gets off scot-free. I mean, I guess he got the charge or whatever, but he's out on his little $15,000 bond. Like, he's out. Like, the white America's gonna get him out of jail every single time with those little bitty bonds, right? But he's basically walking around free, right? And he killed an innocent Black woman. So it's just like, where do we go from here? And as much as we talk about the issues, I think it's important that we start looking for solutions, because obviously the solutions aren't going to come from the powers that be right now. So, for me, I'm just trying to figure out different ways, different solutions that we can do to lessen those encounters that we have with police officers, because the less encounters we have, the more opportunities, the less opportunities they'll have to do something to us. So whether that means educating our people more on their rights and making sure you're doing the right thing and just limiting the encounters that you possibly have. So somehow we've got to do that. We've got to figure out how to limit our encounters and our interactions with police officers, because that's the only way that I see any change happening anytime soon.
I love your attitude, man. That I commend you for that mind frame, because I know that it's very intentional. I think it's really easy to give into all the feelings that you talked about having, and then go down a very destructive path. But kind of what we've discussed in the past. It's not getting stuck in that bad place where there's no real growth happening. There's value in acknowledging that, but you need to move on. So I love the solutions. I also I'm surprised by your story, because it sounds like both of you kind of had that moment of humanity where you kind of saw each other, recognized the situation, and then kind of helped each other through it. Have you had a chance to reflect on that part of it?
I have. Even after the encounter was over, my wife and I were actually headed to have some breakfast at a little diner across the way. And literally, I'm sitting in the parking lot. I'm still trembling from, even though the situation went okay, like I'm still trembling.
Yeah.
And so we go inside and we talk about it. We literally unpack the whole situation. I told her everything that I noticed from the beginning of the whole situation. So a couple of things that she didn't even notice, and then, she brought it back to, but did you notice how afraid he was to approach you? Did you notice how he, and it brought it full circle to where I wasn't angry at him. I wasn't, I didn't hold any ill will because he didn't do anything wrong. Like um, he was probably bored. It was a Sunday morning. He was probably a little bored trying to get a couple stops in, and out there was really no traffic out, so like, hey, he had to, so I get it, like he has to do his job. Um, so yeah, we did reflect on it. You know, we handled the situation as best we could. I was, my wife was taken, she was taken aback by how terrified I was, and I think it opened her eyes to like, wow, this is, nothing went down, but like this is serious,
Yeah.
and I know she already knows that, but like witnessing it firsthand, like she was in the vehicle with me and she was actually glad she was in the vehicle with me,
Yeah.
although I wasn't, because my thing was, if something happens to me, something happens to me, but she shouldn't have to witness it. And I would hate for that story to reach my son that,
Yeah.
hey, we were doing this, and your dad got pulled over and this happened,
Yeah.
you know and so that was how it was. I mean, you always, I'm always hopeful for the best possible outcome, but at the end of the day, like, you can't help but think of the worst possible outcome, because we've seen the worst possible outcome unfold in several instances. I remember back in 2016 when the Philando Castile and the Alton Sterling incidents happened. It was the first time, that we kind of got in an uproar since Trayvon Martin and some other instances, right? But I remember I went to my niece's basketball game, and it was in, let's just face it, it was in a white Trump kind of area. And I was leaving the game. I'm by myself. I went to the game by myself. My wife was actually working. I went to the game by myself to support her, and I'm going home. And stubbornly, I didn't put my address in the GPS, thinking I knew exactly how to get back home from the school. And I made a wrong turn, and I'm on this two lane road in no man's land. Like I said, it's Trump County over there, and I'm driving, and then there was a car behind me. Again, I can't see. There's no lights. There's no street lights or anything. So I'm just going by my lights on my car to be able to see. And then I see these a car behind me, the lights behind me, and it took me back to that was that same kind of moment I had, like I had 2 months ago, where I was scared for my life because I didn't know if it was a police officer, if they were following me, because again, I'm on high alert, because just a few days ago I witnessed back to back deaths by police officers, and then a couple days after that, police officers got killed in Dallas. So there was a lot of turmoil going on. So I was afraid for my life, because like, I know this is not my neck of the woods. And I know the police officers out here probably don't like my kind too much. Um, so it took me back to that. But, it's just always been that constant hamster wheel of emotions. And I just do my best to try to, like I spoke earlier, I try to stay away from police situations as much as I can. I try to go to speed limit. I try to watch out. I know where the speed traps are. Like, I don't want any problems. I don't want to put myself in that position, because when you do things to put yourself in position to have encounters with police officers, sometimes those encounters aren't too favorable for you. So
Yeah.
a simple traffic stop can turn into um, manslaughter. It's
Yeah.
it's it's just reality.
Yeah. Okay, so when I contacted you to participate in this, the title of the series is Grace, right? Um, and after what happened yesterday, I really had to sit with all of this, and at some point try to really think of what that meant for this conversation, because in my mind, grace is really something that you have within you that you choose to give. But like we've discussed in the past, there's times where it's not so easily reached, right? So I'm curious, what role does grace play in situations like what we saw yesterday with Breonna Taylor?
A great question. Um, I'm gonna take it here. So last night, we got alerts on our phones that a couple of police officers were shot during protests in Breonna Taylor's hometown. And again, I kind of have that no justice, no peace kind of numbness in me to where I'm like, it didn't, I wasn't like, oh my God at first. And I want to frame this in the right way because I, in no way do I believe that innocent police officers deserve to be shot because of actions of a bad seat. I don't. I have a really close friend who's like a brother to me that's a police officer, and I would be devastated if something like that happened to him. I'm afraid for his life as an officer and as a black man. So I totally, that's not the message I'm sending. Um, but the message I'm trying to send is it's difficult to have grace in those periods where there's no justice on the other side. And it's difficult to have grace when you don't feel that others have grace for our circumstances, right? So, um, for instance, you see this segment of society that is all lives matter, blue lives matter, Trump support Magna wearing hats. And this is not a manga hat. This is a Make America Arrest the Killers of Breonna Taylor hat. Um, you have those people, the people that don't want to wear masks, and you have those people that they have their narrative that they spin and they're constantly posting a bunch of baloney. And again, their biggest thing is it's not Black Lives Matter, it's all lives matter. But yet you don't ever see them come to the defense of Breonna Taylor. You never see them come to the defense of George Floyd. And these people were killed. They were unarmed and killed at the hands of police officers. Now, you flip it, and a couple months ago or a month ago, the young white boy was shot by the black man, and all of a sudden he became the poster boy for All Lives Matter, and it almost felt so it felt so disingenuous. It was almost like they were waiting, that segment of the population was waiting for something to happen so that they could spin their narrative and say, see, this is what happened. And first of all, that little boy was killed by a thug. Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, they were killed by law enforcement officers. Huge difference. Huge difference. These are the people that are supposed to serve and protect. We also had the situation with Rayshard Brooks. They could have done something different with Rayshard Brooks. He was at the Wendy's drive-through, and they were messing with him, and they said they thought he pulled a taser out, and then they shot him as he ran away, and this, that, and the third. He tried to get away. He was like, "Officer, I'll do whatever." He let them know he was drunk. Instead of serving and protecting him, what did they do? They shot him too. They could have very easily figured out some resources. Hey, where do you live? Hey, let's make sure he gets home safely. We have his vehicle. We can deal with him later. Or even if he's running away, they have his vehicle. Like, deal with him later. But it's never that way with black men. It's always the worst case scenario. So when I say that, it's difficult to have grace when you don't feel that grace is being extended your way and that it's not a two-way street. And I also feel that black people are a graceful people. And overall,
Like black people are not.
no, are. I feel like we have grace. I think we're a lot more graceful than people uh, project or try to portray us to be. Um, you know, we're quick to we were inclusive at the protest, man. All the so many black people were embracing the police chief, and like we're like we should be mad at the police, but no, we embraced him when he was speaking, and I feel like they would have been had every right to boo anybody that was wearing a badge. But instead, they were cheering him, they were shaking his hand, they were embracing him. So like the people who were causing ruckus weren't necessarily at those protests weren't necessarily black people. Those were people that were planted to make the protests look like they're more violent than what they are. Um, and those are the things that make you not want to have grace when you know things are happening purposely to make you look bad to and it's like, how do you have grace for that? Now at the same time, um everybody should be extended grace. If you have any sort of faith that you believe in, any higher power that you believe in, you know that grace has been extended to you. You know that a lot of things have been extended to you that you don't deserve, and nobody is really worthy of grace, but we get it anyway, right? But at the end of the day, like we're human,
Yeah.
and it's only so much you can tolerate. I mean, if you got a bully that's picking on you constantly at school, this bully's constantly picking on you. You might have grace a couple times, like, all right, I'm gonna let him make it. I'm gonna let him make it. But one day you're gonna snap and you're gonna punch that bully. You're gonna just take your shot because that bully has picked at you long enough to where it's like. So I think it's to that point to where it's been 400 years of getting bullied for African Americans in this country, and I think we're to the point where we're fed up. And it doesn't mean that we should go around and be grace should be extended to those who deserve grace, who are extending grace. But to those who are just blatantly or overtly being racist, or even those ones that aren't overtly being racist, because those are the worst ones, those ones that are silent or that try to cover it, those are some of the worst ones. I don't think that, like, they haven't earned grace. They don't want, if like you don't really want black people here, or you don't want black people to thrive, like, why should we have grace for you?
So it definitely
So I
sounds.
get that. I get that. More grace equals peace, right? And I wish it could be that way. I wish that we could shake a few hands and hold hands and pray and kumbaya and everything's great. But the reality is, there's some people that don't want to sit with us.
Yeah. So it sounds like you struggle with it. Is what I'm hearing, which is completely understandable, or at least I think I understand. And one of the things that I was really excited about when I was sitting down and thinking through this series was specifically talking to you, because it is clear to me that you have a very clear connection between you and your community. You said "we" throughout the entirety of this conversation, which is beautiful to hear. But I was really excited because even though there's this really strong connection to your community, it sounds to me like you end up taking over your own reality. And what I mean by that is not just through stories that you've shared, but just being around you and observing you. It doesn't sound like you default to being a jerk to people, or seeing somebody not extending grace to you and automatically being the aggressor. I haven't, at least I haven't seen that from you, which is really, really, first of all, beautiful to see. But honestly, it gives me hope too, because while there is the presence of this reality that's very painful, very hurtful, that it is something you can carry with you throughout. Are you aware of that, or am I just completely off base?
No, I think you nailed it. I Again, like I said yesterday, I went through a wide range of emotions. I try to get the negative emotions out in my four walls at home. So whatever that means, if that means having a call with some of my closest friends, we just kind of chat and talk about the issues. Whether it means talking to Cindy about it, whether it means just being quiet and just putting on some music and thinking, unpacking things, whatever it means. I try to deal with that within inside my four walls of my home, because um at the end of the day, like, I I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be a part of the solution. And But the emotions that I have are very real and are valid and whatnot. But it doesn't mean that, we can just walk around and carry it. We have to make sure we use the negative energy that is inside of us productively, to strategically try to work through some change, because just losing your temper or going off on people and this, that, and the third, like, it's not really productive energy because you're not going to get anywhere. You don't really get anywhere having um, even civil dialogue with people that think a certain way this day and age for whatever reason. Um, but it's, again, just kind of controlling what I can do, and the limitations that we've had with 2020 not being able to really go places and do things and got to wear a mask everywhere, has limited my reach to a certain extent. But whatever I can control, man, I like to like I said, I like to influence my friends, I like to influence my family, I like to influence those on my social media page, I like to enlighten them, and kind of, I created a hashtag yesterday, this is why, because I wanted to bring light to, like, I mean, if I can only reach one person that thinks differently, for them to see, like, I think that's successful. Like, this is why Kaepernick took a knee. This is why we say Black Lives Matter. This is those are the things that, again, that's me trying to use my influence for, even if it's only impacting a few hundred people, at least I'm able to get that message out there. Like I said, if one person that thought on the other way, on the other side of the spectrum, sees just something from that post that they take away, I feel like my job has been done. Um, but at the end of the day, like, I still got to function in society with people that think differently than me, that people that are gonna act like they don't think differently than me, and like, it's a lot of faking. So I just have to be able to be a chameleon and just kind of go with the flow, but at the same time stay true to myself. Like, I'm going to be unapologetically Black in everything that I do. I'm not worried about who it offends or who it doesn't offend, because at the end of the day, I know the posture of my heart. And the posture of my heart is that I just want equality. I want equality and I want unity. And equality and unity don't begin until more people get on board and understand what the issues truly are. And, I actually engaged in this conversation with somebody that's on the other side of the spectrum. And she was posting a bunch of stuff that, didn't make a whole lot of sense. She was posting stuff about the fact that the NFL was doing the Black national anthem before their games this season. And she's like, "Oh, that's so racist that y'all came up with a national anthem," like, as if it was something that was new. So I just enlightened her that, hey, it's not new. It's something that's, been around for many years. Here's the lyrics to it. I said, I hope you understand that the reason that one was created was because the original national anthem that they've sung at every football game for since the beginning of time, was actually written from a racist standpoint. I said they actually, to the point where they had to get rid of the third stanza because of it talking about slavery. And and she just started saying, well, just putting Black on it just makes it seem like it's just for, and I'm just like, you know what, you're not trying to understand. And of course, her, people on her page are gonna like all of her comments and not like what I'm saying because it helps their narrative or whatever. And I simply told her, I said, listen, I'm not here to argue with you. I said, but I do think that you need to educate yourself on the issues that Black America faces. There's a documentary called 13th on Netflix. I'm quite sure you have a Netflix account. If not, borrow one of your family members' passwords. Check this documentary out. It'll explain a lot about this. If she watched it, I'm sure she didn't, but that's all I can do. I can give you resources. I can help you educate yourself. But if you're hell bent on your way being the right way, because I'm open to listening to Trump supporters. I'm open to listening to what they have to say. And because I can tell you right now, I'm not a Biden guy. I'm not a Trump guy, and so I'm open to hearing what you got to say, but at the same time, you can't expect me to just hear what you're saying and accept that as truth because not everything is truth. You need to also be open to the dialogue that I'm bringing to you because there's a lot of truth rooted in what I'm telling you. So,
I applaud you. Again, I was really excited when I sat down and thought about this because you were one of the first people that I thought about just because I've seen these things from you, your character, and I applaud you and your support system because it definitely sounds like you have a good way to go through all these very heavy conversations. So I applaud all of you. Good job. And you actually you kind of touched on the last question that I had for you, and that is the idea of having grace in the context of social media. I want to talk about that a couple of minutes.
yeah. I think it's tough right now because everything is so divisive and everybody has, again, their narrative, and they're going to post whatever they want to post about their narrative, and they're totally against everything else. Like, this is my truth, and that's fine. I think everybody has to live in their truth. But again, if we want to learn, if we want to grow, if we want true unity, we have to be able to think outside of the box. We have to be able to get information from multiple sources. We can't just gravitate to those who look like us, because those that look like us are going to share a lot of the same ideals and principles. Um, so, I've had some circumstances on social media where it was impossible to have grace. I had a racist post on my timeline that Black lives do not matter. How do I have grace? I can't have grace for that. You know. Um, I, Now, at the same time, I can have grace for some aspects of what came of that situation, because a lot of things happened that probably we could have had a little more grace for. Um, but at the end of the day, like, you can't do something that's so malicious and expect grace. I can let people post Trump 2020. I can let people post Biden 2020. I can let, like, all that doesn't, like, that's cool. Like, you believe what you believe. You support who you want to support. You got some people that are talking about not voting at all. You got people who are talking about vote, vote, vote. You got celebrities saying vote, vote, vote now, and it's all, it is what it is. Like, I can respect everybody's freedom of speech, everybody's freedom to believe and do whatever they think is best for them and their family. But just don't bring it directly to me. Don't insult me. Don't, it's one of those things where, I don't even want to post my newborn on social media just yet, because I still got some people I got to purge through on my page, because I don't want that racist energy. I don't want somebody, I just, I don't know what could happen. It doesn't make me feel good that somebody can write on my timeline, Black Lives Do Not Matter, on the same timeline that has a picture of my son. I just, that doesn't sit well with me. Because if anybody were to ever say that my son's life doesn't matter, I'm throwing grace completely out the window.
I completely understand, and again, I applaud you because I think you touched on a number of really good things. One of them being the way that we enclose ourselves within our reality. And with social media, it's already set up in a way where it's curated for us and we don't even realize it. And so we are not only oblivious to the other topics or opinions out there, but we go further into our own reality and we fail to realize that. And there's so much beauty that happens when you venture outside of your own reality. But it takes a lot of character, a lot of wherewithal, awareness, and really figure out that, hey, me listening to someone else, like you said, doesn't really change me. I can still hold true to myself and what I think is valid, without, I think, really losing grace. So I applaud you. Thank you so much for your time, Jarvis. If you want to tell us how to find you, I think that would be awesome. I think you've been doing some great things with your conversations, your podcast. Some of the topics that you have are amazing, so I applaud you for that as well. Where can we find you, Jarvis?
First of all, jarvissam.com. That's JarvisSam.com. That's where you'll find each and every one of the episodes of my podcast. Also, my blog site is there. I do a couple blog posts here and there that, as I'm inspired, I have an amazing piece about Kobe Bryant, as well as one entitled Kaepernick Told Us. And yeah, so there you can get me there. Instagram, Jarvis Sam _. That's Jarvis Sam _ on Instagram. And then if you want to connect on Facebook, just look me up, Jarvis Sam, on Facebook.
Jarvis, thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.